Forget the quarterly reports, forget the 5-year plans for a minute. Today we're doing a deep dive into a source stack that really asks the biggest question there is.
The ultimate question.
Exactly. What is the actual goal of human life, and are you on the right path to get there? We're looking at texts that explore spiritual fulfillment, immortality, and the very different roads you can take.
And it's an incredible deep dive because the source material, it doesn't just offer gentle suggestions. It presents a clear, almost binary ultimatum.
Right.
So our mission today is to distill that choice. Are you on the path of divine progress, or are you maybe drifting toward the path of annihilation, maybe without even realizing it?
Yeah.
And to get that, we have to understand this practice they call sadhana.
The spiritual discipline.
It's the engine for any real advancement.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the big premise. The texts lay out this revolutionary idea for anyone who's really dedicated. They say if you accept the supreme entity as the life of your life, the soul of your soul.
Not just an idea, but a reality.
Yes, the outcome is basically guaranteed. You attain immortality.
It's the ultimate insurance policy, you could say, but it requires a total shift in how you see everything. The sources define the supreme entity Brahma as unbounded and, this is critical, love personified.
Not just a force, but an affectionate one.
Precisely. So the logic is, if you, a finite being, can maintain this deep, unending love for something infinite, that love itself pulls you toward the infinite. It's like a kind of spiritual gravity pulling you out of the small world we see every day.
That sounds beautiful, but of course the sources immediately make it more complicated. They define 2 very different approaches to this goal. We have the path of devotion and the path of knowledge. For someone just starting out, what's the practical difference between them?
Well, they're separated by their whole method, really, and how they even conceptualize the supreme. The path of knowledge is, it's inherently intellectual.
The thinking path.
The thinking path, exactly. The supreme entity is seen as this omni-telepathic entity, a vast, all-knowing consciousness. The work involves immense mental rigor, analysis, detachment, all to understand this absolute truth.
And the text describes that experience so vividly. It says the path of pure intellect is soon assailed on all sides by the laments of the parched desert. Why a desert? That imagery is so strong.
It speaks to the isolation, I think, and the potential frustration of trying to measure the immeasurable with a measuring tape.
Our intellect being the measuring tape.
Right. Your intellect creates boundaries, definitions. When you try to use that to capture something that has no boundaries, you just exhaust yourself. You're looking for water in the sand. It's a pass for some, for sure, but they describe it as incredibly difficult to sustain.
So you could get lost in it.
Or just become cynical or kind of trapped in the vanity of your own knowledge.
Okay, so contrast that with the other path, the path of devotion. The texts call this one sweet and smooth. That sounds almost too easy given the goal is immortality.
It's sweet and smooth, but not because it's effortless. It's because the method is emotionally resonant. Instead of this distant omni-telepathic concept, the devotee feels the supreme as the big I of their small I.
A much more intimate connection.
Profoundly intimate. It's seeing the infinite as the animating force inside you. And the text suggests the supreme actually manifests more clearly this way because you bypass all that intellectual struggle that can breed doubt or ego. You connect through feeling.
I have to challenge that a bit, though. The goal is absolute, eternal, unbounded love. Isn't that an incredibly high bar for the average person? How is that smooth?
That's a crucial point. It's not smooth as in easy, but smooth as in flow. You're working with your natural ability to love, not against your intellectual limits. And the sources say that regardless of the path you pick, devotion or knowledge, the engine driving you is the same. It's the upward flow of Pratisain, cara, which is accelerated by the force of Vidya.
Vidya. We usually translate that as knowledge, but here it's more of a functional, almost scientific thing, isn't it? It's not just book learning.
Exactly. Here, Vidya is focused spiritual discipline. Applied awareness. It's the mental force that creates the propulsive energy for the microcosm that's you to move toward the macrocosm.
It's like a current.
A powerful current pushing you right to the door of that ultimate state.
Which is why they quote that key phrase, sa Vidya vimuktaye.
Vidya is that which leads to complete emancipation.
So if Vidya is the force, when do we have to use it? This gets to the urgency of the whole process.
And this is where it gets incredibly demanding. The philosophy is insistent on this point. This spiritual practice, this sadhana, it has to be done right now, in this life.
Not later.
You will not get the chance after the physical body is gone. This window, this human existence is everything.
The pressure that puts on our daily choices is enormous. The philosophy uses this beautiful but also kind of haunting metaphor. It compares our life to a flower bud.
Right.
And the whole point of the bud isn't just to survive, it's to unfold. The second it withers, its purpose is gone.
And that metaphor just reframes everything, doesn't it? To pursue Brahma sadhana is to align yourself with that unfoldment. It's the only real benchmark for a life of progress, the only path to immortality. If you're not actively doing sadhana,
You are, by default, on the other path, the grim alternative.
which is for those who spend their lives chasing what the texts call limited, mundane objects.
And what happens to them? They let the bud wither, and this causes a regression, a negative Pratisain cara.
Precisely. If Pratisain cara is the flow up toward the supreme, this is the slide down back into inertia, the texts even have a name for it. Crudification.
Crudification. Wow, that sounds much worse than just being stagnant. What does that mean for a person? Is it just being unhappy?
It's far more fundamental than that. The sources describe it as the total annihilation of their latent humanity. Your potential for divinity is just destroyed.
Annihilated.
And the end result, the miserable plight, is regression. You become less than human. The text says people can become as lifeless as bricks, stones, or iron. Or they regress to the level of, say, a dog or a cat.
Wait, hold on. The idea that chasing a bigger salary or a nicer car could literally cause you to become as inert as a brick is? That's shockingly severe. It's a completely binary choice then, not a spectrum.
It is absolutely non-negotiable in this philosophy. The path of divinity or the path of animality and inertia. There's no middle ground for half-hearted engagement. If you're not unfolding, you are withering. And the stakes are laid out in that quote. Which basically means that understanding this in this life is critical. Otherwise, there is mahati vinasat, great destruction.
But what does that destruction feel like today? For you, the listener, what does it feel like on a mundane level?
It feels like disconnection,
Yeah.
apathy. It's not one big dramatic event. It's the slow erosion of what makes us human: compassion, curiosity, the capacity for higher love. When we prioritize limited things, we're building up that internal inertness, like spiritual plaque. The destruction is the loss of your vibrant, unfolding self.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because this philosophy doesn't let this stay a private, personal journey. Once you choose that path of unfoldment, of Dharma, it immediately explodes into this radical, universal, ethical framework.
Absolutely. The personal must become collective. The moment you start moving sincerely toward the supreme, all the narrow stuff, nationalism, tribalism, prejudice, it has to disappear.
Why?
Because Brahma, the object of your love, includes everything, no exceptions. So to love the universal means you have to love all of its parts equally.
That requires such a massive shift in perspective. It challenges every single boundary we've built as a society. The texts give these amazing examples. It says Brahma Sautakas, the practitioners, look on all countries as their own country.
All languages as their own language, all races as their own race.
They are, in their consciousness, fundamentally stateless, borderless.
And it goes even further than the human sphere. It demands a complete dissolution of any kind of hierarchy we place on things. The source says their love must extend to all creatures. A tiny ant has the same importance, the same glamour as an elephant.
That is an incredibly radical bar to clear.
Even the worms and insects in hell, it says, are as dear to the practitioner as the greatest human beings.
Okay, but in a world built on hierarchy and competition, how does the philosophy justify that? Treating an ant and an elephant with the exact same measure of love and importance.
The justification is ontological. It comes from that ultimate realization. If the entire universe is just a manifestation of that one supreme consciousness, that big I, then the difference between an ant and an elephant is just their outer form.
Just packaging.
Just packaging. The complexity is different. But the animating spark, the divinity within, is identical. So to love the source is to love all its expressions equally.
So the highest state isn't some mystical feeling separate from the world. It's the profound, undeniable realization that the entire universe is your own self, and that all-thinking Brahma is your own all-thinking self. That's the true stance of immortality.
And that's what connects personal freedom directly to universal responsibility.
Which is where the rubber meets the road.
It is. Because if you understand the danger of crudification, you now have an obligation to those who don't. The source is clear. The common masses often can't see that they're moving toward annihilation. So intelligent people who get it, they have to step in.
They have to point out the mistakes, inspire progress. It's not a suggestion, it's a social duty. And they have this fantastic analogy for it.
It's the perfect analogy. They compare it to putting up a signpost for motorists. If the road ahead is under repair, if it's dangerous, you don't keep that to yourself. You put up a sign that says danger ahead.
Right.
In the same way, you have to warn those moving along the wrong path, the path to inertia. You have to guide them. And rendering this service is called everyone's bounden duty.
That just connects all the dots so beautifully. Personal spiritual fulfillment, your journey to immortality, is completely inseparable from universal ethical responsibility, from Dharma. You can't save yourself in a vacuum.
Isolation is an illusion the moment you start that journey. And that's the most progressive, optimistic part of this whole philosophy. It's not about retreating from the world. It's about actively engaging with it because you understand that the well-being of the whole is your own well-being. The ethics are built right into the physics of it.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? The core takeaway is, well, it's demanding. The choice between that glorious spiritual unfoldment and total inert annihilation isn't a decision you put off. It's made in your daily commitment to sadhana and in your immediate practical cultivation of universal love. The path you're on is active, it's continuous, and it is highly consequential. And here's a final thought for you to carry with you. Building on that severe idea of crudification. If the annihilation of your latent humanity can result in becoming as inert as a stone, think about the subtle daily choices we all make. The endless scrolling, the calculated apathy, the emotional distance we sometimes create on purpose. What small, mundane investments of time and focus might you be making right now that inadvertently push you, moment by moment, toward that state of inertness rather than toward vibrant, glorious unfoldment? Where today are you actively letting your bud wither?